Hello Year 10, welcome to another quick video on an important bit of CAS functionality. Today we're going to be learning about how to find the X and Y axis intercepts for the rule of a graph. And the example rule we're going to be using today is Y equals 3x minus 6. All right, so before we get started, please just make sure that you've got your CAS calculator handy, that you've got a pen and paper to write down notes on, and that you've got your finger on the pause button ready to go, because you're going to be doing exactly what I'm doing, but on your calculator as we go through, and you might sometimes need to press pause to catch up with what we're doing. All right. So there's a couple of different ways to actually do this, to find the X and Y axis intercepts. I'm actually going to start in the geometry application just so we can get a picture of the graph, so we can kind of get an understanding of what we're actually doing here. So I'm going to start by clicking in geometry, and you can see here that we've zoomed in a little bit. I think that might be helpful to zoom in a little bit. So then what we're going to do is click on this arrow, this down arrow here, the second drop down menu, and I'm going to choose this Y equals f of x. Y is a function of x button, because I want to visualize this graph, and I'm going to type in the name of the graph, which is Y equals 3x minus 6. All right, and we'll press OK, and that's what the graph looks like. So I'm now going to do something that'll be tricky for you to do at home, because you're on your actual devices. I'm just going to get a little snip of this graph, and I'm going to paste him in here underneath here, so just so we can keep in view what we're actually trying to do. All right, so that is what the graph of Y equals 3x minus 6 actually looks like. So now what we're going to do is go back to the main menu and click on main, and you'll be familiar, let me just clear all here. You'll be familiar with the use of the solve function. We've used solve quite a bit this year, the solve function. We're actually going to use solve to find our X and Y axis intercepts. So what we're going to do is we're going to write solve. Or we could, instead of writing solve, we could choose solve from the keyboard menu, but you can also write it. And we're going to write the actual rule, Y equals 3x minus 6. And then what we're going to do, we're going to use this, this special symbol, this guy here. Now that guy here is in the Math 3 menu. And that little bar, that vertical bar, has the meaning given that. Given that. So what we're doing is we're solving Y equals 3x minus 6, given that, and now we're going to write the condition at the x-axis intercept. So at the x-axis intercept, which is here, this is our x-axis, the horizontal axis, at the x-axis intercept, we know that Y equals 0. So over here, if I type in Y equals 0, and I'm solving for X, so I'm going to put a comma X there, even though technically I don't absolutely have to. Now what this line now reads, it says solve for Y equals 3x minus 6, given that Y equals 0. And we're going to go bang, and we get X equals 2. So the x-axis, so we can actually right now, we can say the x-axis intercept is at 2, 0. Excuse me for that. My phone's just ringing in the background. 2, 0. So the x-axis, and if we look at the graph here, we can actually see that makes sense. It's x. It crosses here where x equals 2. There's 2 grid lines, and of course on that line, anywhere on the x-axis, y equals 0. So we can do the same thing for y. So we're going to say solve y equals 3x minus 6 given that x equals 0, but this time we're solving for y. I want to know what y equals when x equals 0. So before I press enter, so just what we're doing here, we're saying x equals 0. So x equals 0 anywhere on the y-axis. X is always 0. So we're looking at the point here. We want that where the graph of y equals 3x minus 6 crosses the y-axis, x equals 0. So we've typed in our formula and we go bang, and it says y equals minus 6. And if we look down at our graph, we can see, yeah, that's one grid line past minus 5. So we can say the y-axis intercept, I might put a little carriage return in here, the y-axis intercept is at 0, because x is always 0 at the y-intercept, minus 6. And that would be our answer. So if any of this didn't make sense, please contact me and let me know. But this is kind of a cool way to use the solve function to work out our intercepts. I hope this video was useful. Let me know if you have any feedback. Thanks for your time.